Kroy Biermann broke, on verge of bankruptcy. RHOA and Don't Be Tardy alum, Kroy Biermann is so broke that he is now on the verge of bankruptcy. The former pro-NFL player is in the middle of a divorce from Kim Zolciak. Unfortunately, financials have been an issue for both of them and have been causing major problems. Now, Kroy is spending an insane amount of money to research bankruptcy. Keep reading for more on what he is considering. Kroy Biermann broke, on verge of bankruptcy. For the last year and a half, Kroy Biermann and Kim Zolciak have been embroiled in a divorce. They have thrown allegations at each other and the cops have been called repeatedly to the home. Furthermore, Kim and Kroy have faced foreclosure and possible auction of their Georgia mansion. Somehow, they have been able to avoid that but did get Truist Bank to agree to let them attempt to sell the home first. They have failed at that despite slashing the price a few times. Kroy maintains that is Kim's fault as he believes the home could have sold already if she had dropped it to a fair amount. However, Kim does not believe she could live on such a low amount of money and buy herself something sufficient. She has been selling their belongings or attempting to while appearing on reality television shows. Their daughter, Real Biermann, was just called out for taking money from a taken man, thus ruining the relationship. Keep in mind that she is engaged, so why does she need to take funds from someone else? Now Kroy has no other option other than to explore bankruptcy, which he has been doing. According to In Touch Weekly, Kroy Biermann's lawyer billed him for researching bankruptcy. He did so back in August 2024. His attorney, Ryan Proctor, did 3 hours of bankruptcy work for the former reality star, which tallied $18,000. The following month, they were trying to figure out if it was worth filing or not. They worked together to weigh the pros and cons of bankruptcy. It is unclear what the conclusion was. Watching closely, Kroy Biermann also paid his lawyer to watch Kim Zolciak on Surreal Life, Villa of Secrets. He was checking for anything disparaging being said about Kroy or talk of the divorce. She was in Colombia for 2 weeks, where she flirted with Chet Hanks and talked heavily about her marital issues. Whether or not that will play into the divorce is yet to be seen. It also appears they are trying to sell the home but are struggling. Kroy may have to file for bankruptcy, just to settle his legal bills. Kroy Biermann's life had once been a charmed sequence of touchdowns and high society spotlights. Known for his athleticism, relentless work ethic, and charismatic smile, the former NFL star seemed destined for a life of stability and luxury. Then he met Kim Zolciak, the Real Housewives of Atlanta personality whose larger-than-life charisma and unapologetic approach to living kept fans hooked season after season. Together, Kroy and Kim were the epitome of a whirlwind romance, lavish homes, opulent vacations, and an ever-growing family. But recent rumors suggested that the facade was starting to crack. Money troubles had begun to rear their ugly head, and the Biermann household, once a fortress of wealth, now teetered dangerously close to ruin. Kroy's friends watched the once confident man start to unravel, as whispers of potential bankruptcy spread through Atlanta's social circles. In a dimly lit downtown bar, Kroy nursed a drink, his mind racing over the decisions that had brought him to this point. The gleam in his eye had faded, replaced by a strained look of worry. The reality was undeniable. The money was almost gone. His earnings from his time with the Atlanta Falcons, which once seemed like a vast, unending reservoir, had been drained by years of indulgence and an unsustainable lifestyle. He tried to recount where it had all gone. There was the colossal mansion with its gaudy furnishings, gold-plated fixtures and extravagant chandeliers that Kim had insisted on. Then there were the cars, enough for every day of the week, and the wardrobes that spilled over with designer clothing, often worn only once. Not to mention the private school tuition for their children and the elaborate birthday parties, each more spectacular than the last. All of it had seemed like an endless carousel of excitement and glamour, a fairy tale he wanted to believe would last forever. But the fairy tale had soured. Kroy's NFL days were far behind him, and he had struggled to find work that could sustain the lifestyle he and Kim had become accustomed to. Reality TV appearances here and there couldn't cover the mounting bills, and even a few failed business ventures added to the financial burden. The Biermanns were sinking, and Kroy felt powerless to stop it. One evening he sat down with Kim to address the situation head-on. For Kroy, the financial stress was not only alarming but also a wound to his pride. He'd been the provider, the man with a plan, and now he could barely pay the property taxes on their sprawling mansion. Kim, however, was unwilling to part with the luxuries she'd come to see as her due. She waved away his concerns, insisting that they'd find a way, that she could negotiate a higher rate for her next reality TV contract, that perhaps they could even pitch a new show, something to keep the money rolling in. Yet, deep down, Kroy knew that the reality TV well was drying up. Fans had grown accustomed to newer, flashier casts and franchises. The audience's interest in their extravagant lifestyle wasn't what it used to be. What once seemed glamorous now appeared as a tragic display of excess. Despite his wife's dismissive attitude, Kroy found himself confronting harsh truths. Kim's spending didn't just bring them to the brink of financial ruin, it strained their relationship. For every word he spoke in caution, she seemed to counter with another shopping spree, another round of cosmetic enhancements, another addition to their seemingly endless wish list. He began to wonder if he had lost her to the glimmering allure of stardom and wealth that had long since turned toxic. Late at night, Kroy would sit by himself, scrolling through endless legal documents, loan agreements, and letters from creditors. He even started contemplating the unthinkable: bankruptcy. He knew it would be humiliating, that their downfall would become a cautionary tale, whispered about in hushed tones across Atlanta's upscale neighborhoods. But Kroy was running out of options. Every day seemed to bring another bill he couldn't pay, another foreclosure warning, another phone call he dreaded answering. One day, while staring at a stack of unpaid bills, he resolved to make a change. He thought back to his days in the NFL, where he'd fought hard, pushed through pain, and given everything on the field. He knew he couldn't allow himself or his family to be crushed by financial ruin. The Biermanns needed a way out, even if it meant tearing down the life they'd so meticulously built. He decided to sit Kim down once more, but this time he wouldn't back down. They would have to sell the mansion, the cars, the luxury goods, every last piece of the extravagant life they could no longer afford. And if Kim wanted to argue, he was prepared. This wasn't about pride or maintaining appearances anymore. It was about survival. The confrontation was tense. Kim initially resisted, accusing him of lacking faith in her ability to resurrect their financial situation. She even tossed out ideas for new business ventures, claiming they could make it big on a revamped reality series centered around their comeback. But Kroy had heard it all before. He knew that even if they landed a show, it would barely make a dent in their mounting debt. They needed real, drastic changes. After hours of back and forth, Kim finally relented. Kroy had forced her to confront the harsh truth that their once dazzling empire was now little more than a crumbling facade. With tears in her eyes, she agreed to put the mansion on the market, to start selling off their luxury possessions. She knew it would be painful, humiliating even, but there was no other way. Together, they would have to rebuild, brick by brick, starting from nothing. As the days went by, Kroy felt a strange sense of relief. It wasn't easy to let go of the life he'd once cherished, but he found solace in the simplicity that was starting to seep into his days. He'd spend time with his children without the burden of impressing anyone or maintaining an image. He took comfort in knowing that he was taking control, that he was protecting his family in the way he'd always meant to. The media would undoubtedly have a field day with their story, he thought, but Kroy didn't care anymore. He'd learned that fame and fortune were fickle, fleeting things, and he was finally ready to let them go. His focus was now on creating a life that could withstand any storm, a life that wasn't dictated by bank statements or credit card bills. He had made peace with the struggle and was ready to fight his way back to stability, one day, one sacrifice, one choice at a time.